And have you got something to say to welcome our guest?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Okay. Can you say that louder? Oh, thank you. Well done. Very good, Teddy. So this is Pet Talk. Welcome to Pet Talk with me, Anna, and Teddy. And our wonderful guest today is Jessie Sternberg. Welcome.
Hi, Anna and Teddy.
Well, I saw your book and the title, of course, I had to invite you on. So this is the book and Enlightened Dog Training. So I had to find out more. So I guess the first thing that, or the most important thing that I think comes across in your book is the importance of being calm. And about the human quotient part of the partnership. So tell us a little bit about why it's so important that we are calm.
So great catch on that. So you're allowed to be human. You're allowed to have express and be everything that you are. The idea, though, is that because nature's not always calm. Nature's not always calm, but our dogs have a language. The language happens through their actions, and those actions make feelings. And so when you're calm, you have the opportunity to sense the feelings and to see the feelings. And you can be incredibly influential as a communicator when you hold, for when you're known to be calm, mostly, because then you can pick and choose from a timing standpoint when you want to make an action or when you want to do a communication. And then what's happening is that the calmness that you've been emanating has a contrast to it. Everyone goes, whoa, he's changing the calmness right now. So they tune in, they listen, and then they hear. So sometimes to bring the energy down in an environment, you don't want to be totally calm. You want to have an intensity to you, which is righteous to it. You're doing it to bring the energy down. So there's a peaceful and there's an alpha that are in a combination all the time. But the big takeaway is that you're not going around pounding your chest being alpha. You're being calm and in tune, calm so you can be in tune. The mind is focusing, the mind is working.
I think there's a number of things that I think are important about this. Number one, we communicate our energy. And if we have a dog that's hyper or frightened in some way, and therefore behaving aggressively, if we become agitated, that's going to make them more agitated. And it's not that different from human beings. Having worked as a teacher with, when children are having tantrums, the best thing I could do is stay calm and give them a space so that they could calm down. If I become agitated and start reacting, then the whole thing begins to escalate. So I think that there's some importance there in terms of just the energy that we are transmitting to our dogs. And calm doesn't mean passive. Our dogs aren't daft. They know who's in charge. They know who's feeding them. They know who's controlling their day and who's making the decisions. They're not daft, but they are very emotional. And I think I really like the way that you explain that dogs are emotional. They're not always rational. They're very impulsive. And anyone who's lived with a dog, unless they happen to have a particularly placid dog, they've got something that reacts because they're like toddlers. So we need to be the ones who communicate calm, and that really helps them.
Totally. And I think that they are, as we start to appreciate more about the influence of the feelings that our dogs have in their behavior, I think what happens is we start to see they are pretty rational. They are pretty rational. As their calm parent, our dog, we need to appreciate that our dog doesn't take a second off of the day from paying attention to the feelings that we're feeling. So if we're what we do, we flip on the telly, or we pop a book on, or we're on the phone, we're generating new feelings, but we're not thinking about our dog in relationship to what we're feeling. So of course, if they start to tune into anxiety or fear or worry, well, what would the kid think if the teacher's getting really worried right now? Maybe there's something we need to worry about right now. And so behaviors and feelings, they go together. And to say, I'm just going to stay calm right now, that's being stoic. That's being stoic, because you might not be calm on the inside. That's why I loved the part of the book where there's meditations and hypnotic training exercises to do with your dog, because it's secretly, not so secretly, for the benefit of the dog owner.
I actually was going to get round to that. I love that you have meditation exercises. I think.
Thank you.
It's so, from my perspective, also being a hypnotherapist and understanding the way in which our minds work, and understanding that dogs are different, but not so different as to be alien. They also respond, and keeping in mind too that their noses, they can smell things that we can't even imagine. So they can smell cancer, they can smell hormones, which means they're going to potentially also be smelling stress hormones like cortisol, and they certainly can smell adrenaline too. So it's all of these things. What we're saying essentially is we need to know how to be in control of ourselves, so that we are able to help our dogs attain a degree of self-control too. And that's a really lovely thing. You talk about protection as well, how often they want to protect us. Well, it shouldn't be their job to have to protect us.
Mm-hmm.
And how do we teach them that actually they need to do that? They could just relax. I like that very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I was listening to all those points there, and I can't remember the first thing that you said, but it got me, it definitely turned a light bulb on for me. It'll probably pop back to me, but okay. Yeah, I remember it. Okay. So our dogs show us by their behavioral nuances, basically when our dogs are being annoying or bad or whatever, however you want to describe it. That's the meditation gong. That's the gong that goes off in my mind going, what's my blind spot right now? Oh, okay, I'm really angry. All right. Oh, I got really excited. Oh my gosh. Now I see how fast the energy moves. And this is the journey, right? Because we're here to master ourselves in this body. And so just living with my dog, or when I'm coaching clients, we're working on the behaviors of the dog. And it's like, almost like, okay, when you sense that your dog's about to do something, let that be the gong. Boom. What else is happening? Wake up right now. Yeah.
So I think we need to be a little bit sympathetic to those of us who do live with dogs and interact with dogs from the point of view that we're not perfect. And actually, we're making it sound as though it's always the human contingent that's at fault here. And it's not always the case, because they have their own doggy instincts, which can, in the human world and sometimes in the doggy world, be antisocial.
Right.
So, approaching another dog directly is rude. And many youngsters and adolescents commit this terrible social faux pas and get told off by another very irritated dog. So they do make mistakes. Of course they make mistakes. And of course they don't understand the nuances of the human world, and particularly when they're younger.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not necessarily our fault, but I think what we're saying is that by not allowing ourselves to get too emotional at the time, just by holding it together, we can be much more effective in communicating.
Exactly. So the idea of embracing this role for your dog as becoming your dog's peaceful alpha is recognizing when your dog is feeling scared or excited or giving you the calming signals, or even seeing it behaviorize, it's whining, lunging, jumping, literally acting out those intense feelings. There are specific actions that I write about that a parent, an animal parent, would take to bring the emotions of their young back into equilibrium, tune into the parent, and follow a directive. Because it might be important safety-wise to just, stay right here in this parking lot under this dumpster and don't leave until I come back with our feed. I don't know. Or to your dog, hey, chill out right now. We're just walking along the park. Nothing fancy is happening. And you need to just be a calm little boy. All right, good job. So first, it's about a respectful way of communicating and actually being able to get connected to another being that's emotional. So you're coming at them calmly, and you're slicing to the heart of the truth righteously in order for the greater good of the vibe, peacefulness. Because it's not always pleasant to be the person who's not a dog person walking by your dog that's just excited, but it's wah, 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 right? We want to take into consideration the whole environment. And when there's peacefulness in our own vibes, that's when our minds are the most open and the most connected. And that, to me, that's how life is ought to be being. So we're kind of doing our pet a favor when we can neutralize their emotion, their feelings, making them calm. And we can't do that if we're living in past or future. If we're thinking about why they always do this, or if we're worrying about that's going to happen, then we're not actually calm. So we're not being that peaceful presence, taking an action to generate new feelings in the environment.
And of course, it's funny because when I started this podcast, I didn't think, but it was obvious that it would end up at some point being an issue of self-awareness. And this is the stuff that you're not taught, generally speaking, in puppy class. It is a very important thing, because if you're excited, your dog's going to get more excited.
Mm-hmm.
What's one of the first things that we're taught with recall is be exciting. So that your puppy wants to come to you. You want to be exciting. So
I love that idea, because that's a great concept, but you can take that to a whole new level, because if you can control when you want to be excited, Excitement makes the laying down dog with their chin on the floor stand up and start moving towards you. So you can play around with your volume and your timing of excitement, and now you're mastering that feeling, and you're not just taking your dog up, because if you get excited all the time, your dog can go from sitting, standing, jumping, running all the time when it gets conditioned to do that behavior when it hears that feeling.
Exactly. So it's learning to tailor it, and that's exactly it. If you are excited, yeah, you're what you're doing is you're conveying, hey, this is time for action. Let's go. We're going to do something amazing. And your dog's going to go, hooray, hey, it's exciting times. But then you also need to, at that point, be calm about your excitement as well, because you don't want them going over the threshold. And it's always that tricky balancing act, isn't it?
Totally, because as a human, I get excited. We're not taught to temper our own excitement, right? When we feel excitement, watch a kid get excited. It's like, wow, right? So, what's cool though, is as I practice tempering my own excitement, because to be that calm presence is with all intense emotions, magic happens on the inside of my vessel, because I'm actually focusing that very high vibe feeling and I'm containing it. It's elevating my energy by keeping it within. So to do that didn't take me 5 minutes to learn how to do. It's a lifetime.
It certainly is. And it's the art.
Why are you doing it?
It's the art of stoking a fire and then keeping it just at the right temperature so that you're not going to get burnt meat on your barbecue. And that you get something good. So this is everything that we're talking about is an art. And so for those of you who are out there and who are struggling, this is something to keep in mind, that when you are interacting with your dog, your demeanor is going to make a difference. So it's probably more important than which cue to use. It's probably more important than anything else, because it also, and here's the thing that we haven't talked about, is about building trust. Because if you have a consistent calm that exists between you and your dog, what you're doing is you're helping your dog to build trust in you, but also I think to build trust in its life and its environment. It's learning that life is okay. It's good. I can be safe. I can be secure. There aren't things happening or coming at me every 5 seconds. And so I can have a nice time, and I can relax and trust in life itself. And I think that that's a really important part of what we can give our dogs.
That level of peace. And it works the other way too. Overexcitement, always happy dog, which is overexcited, is a flooded nervous system, but in the other extreme. It doesn't feel pleasant being on the apex of a roller coaster for more than 10 seconds. So if that's the life you're living, to learn to trust you that it's okay to calm down. It's okay to restrain myself. Wow, I'm getting to this new vibe where it's like, okay, now I can cognize a lot more and a lot more peacefully. Yeah.
When Teddy was a puppy, he was very excitable. He's a cockapoo. Of course he was excitable. That's what they're like when they're puppies. But nevertheless, at home, he wasn't like that. He was like that when he was outdoors and all the senses were awake and everything was super exciting and stimulating. And I had to work really hard to get his attention, to keep his attention, and maturity played a large part. So again, if you've got a pup who is very excited, practice things now, and you will find that as they mature, it will get easier because, you know, they're growing up, and they do grow up quite quickly compared to us. But at home, Teddy always was calm, because this was where what he knew, what he was familiar to him. He comes from a calm and loving home. And so it was actually a really super easy dog to be with.
Nice.
Challenging outdoors, at home, super easy. So he always had that to fall back on. So I was never worried about that side of things. So it's, again, watch your dog, get to know your dog, understand what it is that is really exciting, and then work from there.
I have like a whole other career where I do private training, and there's this illusion with puppy owners that they want their dog, their puppy, to be calm outside. You know, we're touching on it right now. And then we're also throwing around words like maturity. And so I'm getting a puppy right now. Like if I'm getting a puppy right now, I'm bringing a different set of maturity to what its behavior is going to be like outside. And it's going to help me be a lot calmer because I'm not going to be trying to bend nature out of having, right? But what it is going to be interesting is having impeccable timing, impeccable awareness of territory, and making sure I'm playing angles that are making smart and using tools and technology like a long light line and stuff. Just being really clever, and also not having the guilt or the other human emotions where I'm projecting, being like, my dog didn't get enough outside playtime today, so I'm going to make my life really hard right now and get really stressed that he's not calm. And then he's going to come and nip my arm because he's going to think that I'm being all playful with my aggressive feelings. And I'm going to be totally okay with maybe even skipping a day if it doesn't seem like it's going to flow for me outside. It just new wisdom that I would be bringing to that.
You know, I can't wait for the day when I feel ready to have a puppy again, because it's going to be so much easier. Not that the dog will be easier. In fact, I hope not. I hope it'll be just like Teddy, full of spark and excitement and wonder at the world and wanting to do everything at once. I love that. But what I will enjoy is not worrying about it, because I now understand that that's normal and that's okay. And like you said, to not have those feelings and worrying about, you know, getting about it embarrassing me or anything like that, all of that will be gone. And
Right.
and like you, I am such a fan of the long line. Oh my goodness. That was my best friend for the better part of 18 months.
Right. So it's all about doing actions in our own lives that bring us the peace of mind so that we don't have to have that worry or stuff like that. And that is a discovery that once you make it, it's a eureka moment and you want to share it because it doesn't taste normal, really, you know, growing up and not really knowing how to not worry about stuff. And then the vibe that starts to take over for that. That's the whole idea behind the book as well as the character of being the peaceful alpha. It becomes a natural because instead of getting irritated or annoyed at certain things, you're using your own emotions, connection to then take an action early so that you change your own vibe.
And so that brings me to a thought that's just popped into my head, because we see these wonderful pictures. I've never had the privilege of doing this, but you see these wonderful doggy yoga classes with really Zen dogs, you know, and people doing yoga around them. And I just think, how is that possible? Well, it's possible because it's such a calm atmosphere.
And very amplified, loving frequency. So when nature gets that frequency, it knows what to do, become trained.
Absolutely. So I've just looked over so that you can see my
Attaboy. Attaboy. So that's my favorite position, laying down, chin down. I talk about it a lot. I also talk about this set of positions. It's the only thing I really train called that I call the sequence of surrender. And you see a dog, let's say you take a very excited dog and you have a leash on the dog and you put the leash in, you stand near it and you put the leash into like tie it to a post. If you just stand there and you're calm, first the dog's going to act out some feelings. It's going to look like, pulling the leash. Then the dog's going to realize, oh, I'm tied. I can't go anywhere. Then he's going to stand still. Then he's going to sit. Then he's going to lay down, and then he's going to put his chin down. And the beautiful thing about what's happening, and this happens way more than if you just tie your dog to a post. That's just how, do that as a, and if I have a puppy, I'm taking my puppy to a bench and I'm tying the leash to the bench and I'm meditating and I'm waiting until my puppy goes into that lay down, chin down. What does that represent? Maximum surface area of the body on the earth, grounding. What kind of feelings do we know, and what kind of thoughts and feelings are going to be coming into the body when we're able to do that? And how fast does the dog realize, okay, nothing to do right now, so I'm just going to surrender. Boom. That is a really cool lesson for us, is to be able to go, okay, I can't fight this right now. I'm going to make my body still and I'm going to breathe. And in a couple of moments, I'm going to slouch. In a couple more moments, if I have the discipline, I'll really get mellow. Okay, now it's time to move on. So that's the best thing to be training. If the doorbell rings, if you can coach your dog into that, make his own decision or her own decision to go through that sequence, to lay down, chin down. And then from that moment, that's when you have a communication. You add flavor to it. Your dog starts to think that you start to make your dog want to please you by learning how to discipline his or her own senses. And that makes them very calm, very focused, very obedient, very thankful to you that you taught them how to do that. With any stimulation that is overstimulating, if you're giving them a gift.
Yes, you're teaching them that it's a good thing to be calm and to relax. And we know how nice it is to be calm and to relax. So we're sharing a very important life skill with them. Well, this has been a really lovely conversation. And how could people get in touch with you? How could they find you if they want to get in touch?
Connect with me right through my website, www.peacefulalpha.com. From there, all kinds of links to my book, links to my course, links to my social media outlets. Yeah, and you can email me right from the site.
So I'll be sure to put a link to that on the description box. And so thank you so much, Jesse, for speaking with us today.
Thank you, Anna, for having me.
And next time, we're going to talk a lot more about body language. And until then, remember to subscribe. If you have any comments or questions, feel free. I always read, I always reply. Until next time, goodbye.